Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tom Osa. We are at our 12th Small Business Friday Forum. You're going to note that it's going to be a little bit of a different environment today. I figured since we're starting to get toward the next phase of our reopening, we would do this outdoors. So out on the balcony right now, it's a little cloudy out, but it's nice to hear the birds chirping. And I'm hoping that over the course of the next few weeks, we'll be able to spend a little bit more time outdoors. Share my screen. So we do these meetings every Friday at 12:30 in the afternoon. We've done 12 thus far. And we greatly appreciate everyone that has attended and shared around the information. We try to have really informed and very well-connected guests across the entire spectrum of the business, residential, and municipal communities that we have here in Rockland County. These Friday forums are sponsored by the Workforce Development Board of Rockland County. Again, thank you to Executive Director Deborah Thomas for championing these events. We really appreciate it. Hey, Debbie, how you doing?
Good.
Hi, Deb.
Hey, guys. Thank you for being here today. We welcome you. The board and the executive team welcome you. We really appreciate your time and your leadership. And we also want to say thanks to our partners, the Chamber Alliance of Rockland. We're getting the word out in a big way, and we appreciate your expertise and your support.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
And we also want to kudos to Tom. He's a yeoman board member for the Workforce Development Board. He's helping us with the website, rocklandwork.org, and he's been doing tremendous leadership, facilitating these sessions for our community. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You can find out a variety of resources, both for business and residential guidelines, things that are coming down the pike at rocklandwork.org. And it's not just about how things are going small business-wise. It's also information about unemployment benefits, information coming from the Department of Labor, information from not-for-profits in the area, information on how you can qualify for various government grants, PPP loans, economic disaster assistance loans. All that information is in mass at rocklandwork.org. So feel free to visit that, and it's regularly updated by the staff of the Workforce Development Board. I see there's a few more participants that have hopped in. Let me just make sure that everybody's in the meeting, and they are. One last thing before we get into our format, Debbie had mentioned about the Chamber Alliance of Rockland. Just for those of you that are not familiar with that, that's a collection of the 8 different chambers of commerce in Rockland County: North Rockland Chamber of Commerce, Nanuet, New City, Nyack, Sloatsburg, a variety of others, Pearl River. And they've been very integral over the last few years in helping to develop small business. Very vital component of how our economy works. And finally, I just wanted to note, I'd like to, those of you that have been in attendance in the previous meetings, we've compiled quite the list of really great guests. Here's a list. I'm not going to go through all the names, but I wanted to thank everyone again for having participated in this. One that's very near and dear to my heart is People to People. They help people that really don't have a lot of resources, and you know, they stayed open throughout this entire thing to help make sure that people are fed. And that, I think that's a very important component that we can all tie on to. Meals on Wheels as well. They were on with People to People, and they stayed open throughout this entire economic crisis and health crisis. Our agenda for today's Small Business Friday Forum, we have Town Supervisors Jim Monaghan, Town of Stony Point, and Howard Phillips from the Town of Haverstraw. It was a little tough for me to put this together this time because I both love you guys equally, and I wasn't sure who to put first on the list or alphabetical order or anything like that, but I figured I live in Stony Point, so I'll start with Jim, and also there's an alphabetical order thing there. But both of you, I've known you for several, Howard I know for, oh my God, like about 20, 25 years. Jim, we've only gotten to know each other over the last 5 years since you've become town supervisor, but it's wonderful to both of you to have you with us on this Friday forum. A little bit about each of them. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about some of their more notable accomplishments. Both have had very wide-ranging careers and also work in charitable and not-for-profit organizations. Mr. Phillips has been town supervisor since 2002, but 1983, and I remember when my family had a bike store in West Haverstraw, starting in 1982. He was the director of finance for Supervisor Phil Rotella. He's also a proud graduate of North Rockland High School. We graduated at the same time, right, Howard?
Yeah, definitely, Tom.
Current chairman of the Rockland Haverstraw Water Recovery Facility, county legislator from 1996 to 2002, and he also, in his free time, is a teacher of CCD. He's a lector at St. Gregory's, and he is a 4th degree Knights of Columbus member of the Haverstraw Elks. Is that correct?
Knights of Columbus.
Knights of
4th degree in Knights of Columbus.
And Jim, Mr. Monaghan, supervisor of the town of Stony Point. This is his 3rd term. He's been on the town board as councilman for 2 years. But prior to that, he was a New York City Police Department lieutenant. And he had a very lengthy and successful career there. Conducted himself not just with honor, but duty, and a wide variety of accomplishments while he was on the force. He's currently he's been married to his wife, Jackie, for 31 years. That's a beautiful accomplishment in itself. 2 children, Jimmy and Tara, and also a parishioner at the same church that I go to is Immaculate Conception Church, and he is a member of the Haverstraw Elks for 32 years and counting. So, gentlemen, thank you both for being on our Friday forum. We appreciate it. We'll get right into the topics at hand. The number one topic is restarting the economy. There's a lot of individuals that are out there that are not sure as residents when certain places are going to reopen. Perhaps you can help to provide some guidance on that, as well as the businesses that need to know exactly how to reopen. So I guess I'll start with Howard, if you wanted to say a few words to kick it off.
Sure. So I brought some of my staff here with me. We have our building inspector, George Bain, assistant, his deputy, Ricky Dess. I have with me the town clerk, Raquel Ventura, our police chief, Pete Murphy, our assessor, Charlie Zaba, my assistant, Alex Guarino, director of finance, Mike Amboli. So some of the businesses have started already, but the bulk of it is going to happen on June 9th. I'm going to let our building inspector, George Bain, jump in here, tell you that some of the businesses, the procedures in which we are.
Bill's on the
Oh,
phone.
and Bill Stein, our town attorney, is on the phone. George?
So with regard to restaurants and outside dining, we have a couple restaurants that have some room in their parking lots. Emphasize that they have to, prepare for public safety, follow all the Rockland County Health Department guidelines.
Well, I apologize. If you could speak up a little louder I can hear you, but just to be sure.
So, and with regard to salons and barbershops, they're going to be opening up on Tuesday. They have restrictions that have been set down by the state and also the Rockland County Health Department.
Now, the important thing is that we're not going to be going into these businesses and policing them. That's up to the Rockland County Health Department. But there are guidelines that they must follow, and most of it right now is 50% capacity.
In the restaurants.
In the restaurants.
Indoors.
Indoors. Outdoors?
So outdoors, they have to, set it up with regard to social distancing.
Mm-hmm.
And also vehicle impact protection has to be put up to protect.
So if a typical restaurant has never had outdoor dining and wants to do so to bring business in, they're going to have to do something to ensure that their customers are going to be protected, because a lot of the parking lots, wherever you go throughout Rockland County, are really packed with vehicles, and were not designed unless that intention went through with the site plan approval for outdoor seating. So, you know, we have these cement blocks that people are talking about putting up and creating some type of outdoor dining. Obviously, some restaurants are going to be able to do it. Other restaurants probably will lack the ability because of the parking lot to create outdoor dining. But we're here, and this is the message we want you to hear. We're here to work with you. So if you're interested in doing that, come sit down, talk to our building inspector, our deputy, and we'll work with you to try and achieve some type of plan.
Great. Jim, would you like to add to that a bit?
Sure, just to follow up what Supervisor Phillips said and George, we're working also here with our local business owners. And one of the things we're trying to get the message out is to go on the state's website, Forward New York. They have what they call a reopen lookup tool. And what businesses have to do, they have to have a safety plan in place for each phase of business. The state is requiring them to read and affirm the guidelines. Also to print out and have a safety plan at their local business. We know we're right now in phase 1, construction, fishery, manufacturing. So those businesses are required to have a safety plan and are also to acknowledge with the state that they do have a plan. They don't have to submit the plan to the state, but they're required to have that. We know with going on June 9th with phase 2, where barbershops can open, phase 2 also allows for the outdoor dining like has been spoken about. So we're working with the small businesses and our restaurants to be aware to have a safety plan. I've sent out a letter to our local businesses advising them this, also guiding them to the website. I've already spoken to some of our local business owners. We are going to help them have outdoor dining, but they have to not only submit a plan to the state, but we're asking them to provide they're required to submit a diagram and a plan for the outdoor dining that we also have to, as a town, approve it, and we submit that to the state and the state liquor authority. My phone's been ringing off the wall with local restaurants. They're excited to be able to open. They're going to be able to serve food and drinks outside. Some of the guidelines, they're not going to be able to construct a tent or an overhang, but they are going to be able to have outdoor tables as long as those tables are 6 feet apart. Staff will be wearing masks. They'll be following their safety plans and both the guidance from the state and the CDC. So once again, Forward New York is the site. They have a template to devise a safety plan for each business, and it's an important message that we're all getting out.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate that. We had a variety of questions, and this can be more of an open discussion. I'm happy to that I know you guys for a few years now. There's a lot of questions that typically show up on the North Rockland community with regards to this business or that business reopening. Guidelines, as you mentioned, are very important. Do you have any sort of a feel for, and I'm not holding anyone to this, but any sort of a feel for when the same amount of job for our workers that are in Rockland County, specifically North Rockland, when you think that that'll come back to a level that it was pre-COVID-19? So we had somewhat of a 15 to 20% drop nationwide. Thankfully, we've had less in Rockland. But do you have any sort of indication from state authorities or national authorities where that level of job retention is going to come back to normal?
Well, it's difficult to say right now when we were going to get back to normal because everything is predicated on the governor and what his staff is working on. And in all fairness to the governor, they would love to open everything up, but I'm sure they're very timid about, are we going to get more cases? it's going to be very interesting to see after all these protests and some of the other things that have gone on, if that's going to be an uptick with the COVID-19. A lot of people are predicting that. But we really are predicated on what they can tell us we can do. And that's our difficult thing. Now, we're hoping they're going to move phase 3 up, because phase 3 includes just about everything for us. Recreation facilities will open back up. That's more or less getting back to normal. All 5 town supervisors, we meet and we talk. It was every single day. We're talking now at least 3 times a week. And we've been going back and forth what we're going to be doing with our summer recreation programs, our day camps, our pools, our concerts, all of that. So I can say this, that again, going back to the theme that we're here to work with the businesses. And I know this is what you're concerned with. So our building department, our building inspector, our town assessor, our town clerk, my office, we're here and we want to do everything we can to assist businesses. But we can't do some things until the governor's office says, okay, these businesses can open. And you've heard Jim's talk about Ford, New York. You can also go on the CDC. They have guidelines as well. But we would like to get back to normal as soon as possible. I think our biggest challenge is we're in with Westchester right now in the region, and they've had more problems or more cases of COVID-19 than we have had. And we've, as everybody's following the numbers, we've seen a drastic decrease in the number of cases per day and the hospitalizations. So that's a really good thing. But we're all anxious. As you know, we've been open now. We were open through the whole COVID-19. We were at full strength 3 weeks ago. Our golf course has remained open. The big question I'm getting right now is Bowline Point Park and the day camp. So we plan on opening up the Bowline Point Park pool at least by the beginning of July, if not sooner. We've been contacted, all of the employees, the summer employees. We plan on doing all of our Thursday night open air concerts, which I believe begins on July 9th. And we plan on doing our fireworks display, which right now is July 2nd. So I think a lot of people are going to be happy. The more tentative things are the day camps. I know some towns have already canceled their day camps. We're seeing if there's something else we could do. Again, the problem there is, I think both Jim and I have a very similar problem. We go to the schools. We are at the North Rockland School or Fieldstone or Fields Elementary School. But the school district sent us a letter. They want a plan, which we can give them a plan. But they also said they want a plan on how we will sanitize the restrooms after each use. And that pretty much is saying to us, hey, you know, we're really not going to be able to allow you to use the building. So we're seeing if there's any other place we can rent. It's really going to be, I think we're full strength. That means parents will be back to work by July. And unfortunately, what are those parents going to do with their children? And normally they would send them to camp. So we're working on that. But when it comes to businesses, we're really following the state guidelines on what can open and what cannot open. And we've been reaching out to the businesses as well. We've contacted many of the businesses, but we receive calls on a daily basis. So it's good because we're having a one-on-one contact with businesses. We're also posting. So we've asked any of the restaurants, if you plan on doing outdoor dining, as you've seen, all 5 town supervisors, we're going to the restaurants that stayed open for takeout. But if you plan on doing outdoor dining, we've asked all of them, reach out to us. We will post it on social media. We'll let the people know. So we really are being a bridge right now between the businesses and the transition to opening again. Jim, you want to embellish upon that?
Sure. Like Howard said, we're pretty much the same boat. We have made the decision to cancel our day camp. It had a lot to do with the location where we hold the camp. Our camp is at our town pool, which is a small area, don't have a building. Normally the children go on bus trips at least 2 or 3 times a week. The bus is based on the CDC guidelines that we're not able to use. So we made that difficult decision to close the camp. We are anticipating opening our town pool. So hopefully that'll move forward. One of the things we did here in anticipating of reopening the business community, we set up a local task force just to come up with practical ideas that we could help the business community. We came up with a logo. It is Bounce Back Stony Point. We're going to start to help marketing that. The committee we put together, we have 3 local restaurant owners. We have a local business, a bank executive. We have a member of the school board. We have a member of the North Rockland Chamber of Commerce. And we have Steve Porat, who's the executive director of the IDA, and he is the chairman of the group. But his role is just as helping as everybody else on the group, just to help the small businesses. We know we want to restart the businesses and the local economy. I also, your own Tom Osa has just recently joined the committee, and he has volunteered to set up a web page for us that is going to be bouncebacksp.com will be the website for Tom. I want to thank you and all the volunteers who signed on to the committee. We know it's challenging times. I think things, if long as everybody continues to use the proper safety guidelines, June 9th going into phase 2, June 23rd would be, if everything stays on track, for phase 3, which, as Howard said, that is a big opening when restaurants and retail businesses. And the 4th one, arts and recreation. I've had a lot of small business owners, a lot of the fitness centers, the gyms, the training facilities who've been closed down, and they're really anxious to get back. And one of the things I think we've all experienced, it's frustrating sometimes for municipalities. If we have safe ideas to open a business, we're restricted. We have to wait to the state sets that guideline where we can open up. One of the things I think has been very positive, myself and Supervisor Phillips, we share the same high school, school district, North Rockland School District, the North Rockland Chamber. So we've worked together well to come together and find ways collectively together what we can do to support these businesses, support the economy. I've probably spent more time with the supervisors on conference calls than I've ever had. It seems like almost every day we're on calls, not just with Supervisor Phillips, but all the town supervisors. And it's just been so productive. We also have a call. It used to be daily, 7 days a week. We're now on a call with the governor's office in New York State. They've every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And it gives us an opportunity to, when we have questions, we ask the governor's staff some questions. And I have to say, Supervisor Phillips this week has used up his questions. He's asked 3 in probably the last 3 phone calls. So he's doing a good job, and we're doing well working together.
Tom, may I also add, because our town clerk is the one that issues a lot of landscapers. She's been open the whole time. We have a landscaping licenses. We also have carting licenses. I want I want her to explain the procedure in which they are able to get their permitted license.
Hello, everyone. So the carters application are now in process. So what we did is we mailed them out. So they come up to the office and submit all the paperwork. As far as the landscapers, most of them are already completed. We do have applications in the lobby, online, or we can mail it to them, however they prefer. But they're all pretty much, I've completed all the landscapers' applications. Everyone was very anxious to start working, and so far everything is going good.
And all your other permits, fishing permits, marriage permits you've been doing?
Yes, we haven't stopped. But for the safety of the public and ourselves. So what we're doing is we're working with appointments. I've been performing marriage ceremonies via Zoom, and they've been really successful, and everything is pretty good. Working with appointments, everybody's calling in, and it's working very well.
George, maybe you could just explain, because I know Jim and I both have the same type of building departments. What are some of the questions you're getting? I know we've gotten a tremendous amount of people who are going to be putting in pools. Maybe move over, George, and just say whether it's a deck, whether it's a pool, whether it's a business construction, the process.
So I've been issuing permits. The deck has to be in a state of disrepair, so that it's something I can say is a hazard, and then it becomes a essential project. Pools I consider to be essential because of the sort of the psychological well-being of children. They're not going to be going to camps. They're not going to be going to town pools. So
You've decided that that's an essential that can go on right now.
I did check with the state, the economic development, and they, kind of saw it that way too,
Okay.
that it's essential.
Right.
But they all have to follow the social distancing and PPE regs that the state has. I made up a disclaimer that they have to sign prior to picking up the permit, but we're really trying to continue to move forward.
Good. Tom, the other thing that we've got a lot of questions on are where is your budget going? And we want the people to know that we don't begin, even though the budget process, I have to submit the town budget, the tentative budget to the town clerk by the end of September. She then hands it over to the town board. The town board members and I have been working on a budget for all during the year. We've been watching all of our expenses. We're very fortunate because we did make a considerable amount of money on the golf course during March, but we watch our expenditures throughout the years. The good news is we have been in excellent financial condition. We just had our independent audit come back. Mike Gamboli's here with me, Director of Finance. Our independent audit came back, really showing that the way we handle our finances, our expenditures, our procurements are excellent. We've been rated by the Comptroller's Office for the last 5 years with a better stress rating than any other town. No offense to Jim, any other town, Rockland County, and one of the best in the state of New York. So we're going to try and do everything we can to bring in a very lean budget for 2021, because I know everybody's out there wondering, how are we going to pay our school tax? How are we going to pay our town and county tax? And that's a lot of questions that we've been answering. So we're working very hard on trying to, I have our chief of police, because as you know, Tom, and Jim knows, the police budget in all towns makes up anywhere from 60 to over 70% of the budget. And the chief has been watching, Chief, your overtime expenses, all the different types of things that would create overtime. You've been having a handle on that?
Very closely.
Okay. So we're doing everything we can to try and protect the taxpayers as well. And at the same time, we're really trying to get businesses up and running. And again, it's a daily basis that we're on the phone with numerous businesses, but I think it's been a real team effort. And I just want to go back to what Jim was saying, meeting with the supervisors almost every single day and sharing ideas, sharing services, and then speaking with the governor's office has proven to be very fruitful, I think, to the people of Rockland County.
Agreed. We had some questions that we collected prior to our meeting today. And I'm just going to share my screen. And you had just mentioned the first one, Howard, about the upcoming 2021 budget. And it's good that there was some extra funds that we're going to be able to have around, if you will, going into the 2021 budget for Haverstraw. But if you could just reiterate again, one person had asked, when does the 2021 budget come out for each of the towns? So first, town of Haverstraw.
So again, every town under New York State law, town law, must submit their tentative budget to the town clerk by September 30th. She then presents it to the town board. Now, the last thing I want people to think is that the town board doesn't have any input until then. Our board works with me constantly throughout the year. We're monitoring expenditures constantly throughout the year. That's another thing all 5 town supervisors we agreed upon. We tried to hold any new projects we put on hold so that we could really get a handle of where our expenses are. I'm going to let Mike Gamboli jump in here because one of the big sources of revenue for all towns is the sales tax and the mortgage tax. Mike, you want to tell them the first quarter wasn't bad and
Yeah,
then tell them why?
so the first quarter of sales tax was December, January, and February. And quite frankly, the revenues that we got from the county was pretty much the same that we've been getting for each quarter. Obviously, we're going to see a hit for March, April, and May with everything being shut down.
And they're talking about 25 to 40%.
The state has come out with the possibility. The good thing, though, for the towns is that, you know, most of that sales tax goes to the county, and they only share about 6% of the sales tax that they collect with the towns. So the loss of that revenue,
Which is not right. And let's make that clear.
Right.
And
Well, that's
I'm
why,
sure Jim will agree 100%.
well, that's why I said they only share 6%, where the average across the state is probably about 30%. So the sales tax is going to hit us a little bit, but not as bad as what people think that it's going to affect the town budgets.
And the mortgage
And
tax.
the mortgage tax, I mean, people are refinancing, and so
So
we'll see.
explain what the mortgage tax is, Mike.
So it's sales on homes, refinances, all that income. It's been very active. A lot of people have been refinancing their homes.
The rates are down.
Interest rates are down, so people are refinancing, so they're saving money on their interest. And meanwhile, so we'll see. We haven't gotten the first payment yet for mortgage tax, but we'll see where that comes in. And it's a good thing that we budget conservatively for those revenues anyway, so we should be pretty good.
I think Haverstraw and Stony Point have always been very fiscally responsible. I mean, we have the same number of employees here at Town Hall that we had in 1980 under Supervisor Rotella, and I'm sure Jim hasn't grown much there in employees at his staff too. So we remain lean, but you know, that sales tax, we're going to see a big hit on that.
Thank you. Jim, anything you wanted to add? I actually have a few questions specifically that were posed to you, but did you wanted to add anything?
No, just quick, just agree, the same thing. We know we face serious financial concerns, and just like a private business does, who weren't able to open, collect revenue or sales tax. So we know the challenges there. We put that out right from the beginning with all the department heads working closely, watching every penny, just like you would do it in your own home or your own business.
So Jim, there was a few questions. By the way, just as a side note, George Potanovic just wrote in and said that he's sorry he couldn't make the meeting. I know we'll miss him at this event, but I'm sure we'll see him at future town board meetings. So very cool on that. I'll share my screen. There's a few interesting questions that came in, and it's funny how this works. Usually the questions come in during the meeting, not before. We'd love to have them before, but you know, it is what it is. So I'll share my screen. And so we talked a little bit about the timings for the types of businesses that are reopening. And the number one question that I got was about our barbershops and hair salons, not about the restaurants. We need to get our hair done. Jim, you might not have to, but for the rest of us, what's the timing again for the barbershops and hair salons?
Phase 2.
June 9th.
Okay. And that's also the restaurant, the outdoor seating for the restaurants. Is that correct?
Yes. So Mayor I should have mentioned this before, and we in Haverstraw, we work very closely with the villages, Mayor Coed, Village of Haverstraw, Mayor D'Amelio, Village of West Haverstraw. So Mayor Coed is having a meeting today, and he invited both the town and the Village of West Haverstraw with salon and barbershop owners. I think everybody knows how many in the Village of Haverstraw. There's a ton of them down there. Our Latin community loves to stay very sharp and good looking with their appearance. So, but he's having a meeting today with that. And, you know, we're trying to come up with the proper way in which these barbershops, again, were being guided by the state here and the CDC on how they should have their barbershops and salons. But I have to say, and really wonderfully, that the owners have already come up with plans even before the state came out with it, how they're going to open up, how they're going to protect their employees and their customers. So, you know, it's great to see that people understand the reasons and they're trying to comply, but we really need to get these businesses back up and running. That's the crucial thing. We need to get the businesses back. We need to get the employees back. We need to get this economy back up and running.
I absolutely agree. And I mean, we've been, just me personally, our business has been very lucky that, I mean, we've worked remotely for 10 years, but what we found is it was difficult for people to kind of change their everyday behaviors. The modus operandi is to go to one location and to work from there and do whatever they need to do. But it's tough changing behaviors. And but thankfully, I think that our society adjusted very nicely. And Jim, there was a question here that was a significant, vital one. And it had to do with Patriot Hills. I didn't mention this to you beforehand because I wanted to keep it, just objective and such. But has the COVID-19 crisis, has it caused any adjustment or any modification of the pending Patriot Hills sale to local private investors in the area?
No, not to that effect. We're still on, we have a buyer who is looking to purchase our Patriot Hills Golf Course and also the 26 acres that has never been developed. We're still working with the developer who's still interested in, at this point, to purchase the property. There was signatures collected for a public referendum to have a vote. That was challenged by a resident, so that is before a judge to rule on that. So I don't have a date on when that'll take place. The most important thing to have a contract in the sale, there's 4 important things. The most important is the golf course remains a golf course and open for our residents to use. The second thing is when people hear of a price tag, the price tag, you heard $3 million, but that's not the final price. One of the most, 2 other ingredients with the contract would be the developer would have to build a new community center for our senior citizens, our board meetings, our residents. So that right there is, several $1 million to do. The third thing, we have Kirkbride is on the building Kirkbride, which is one of the historic buildings in Letchworth that we use regularly for our recreation for basketball. There would be a long-term lease to the town at $1 a year. I know my children played CYO basketball there. That gym is used constantly. We would make sure that the gym is available. And the fourth would be in the contract. The buildings that have asbestos and lead paint, they would have to either be taken down or safely remediated. We've had costs minimum $3 million for, and even higher. We've had so many people come in and look at that facility. The major corporations come in, and once they see the cost of taking the buildings down and the cost of remediating, they've walked away. So this is an opportunity we have to continue the golf course as a golf course, open to our residents, and finally have an opportunity to develop the 26 Letchworth acres. Hopefully that this will still go through. I've talked to the purchaser, still on track, wants to buy it. He realizes that we've seen in the economy, we believe, and I think most experts believe, that we will come back. Prior to this pandemic, all sectors were doing well. So there's no reason once we get through this in a longer term, 2, 3, 4 years, we'd have the opportunity to still build a hotel, to come back stronger. this would be a real boost to our economy, not just to the Stony Point, to the North Rockland School District, to the county. And somebody said to me, "Are you giving it away cheap?" And they were misled when they hear only one part of it. They hear 3 million and they forget the other 3 parts that were left in. I don't know if people purposely do that, but it would be a win-win to finally have. And what I was going to say is, the market don't lie. And what I mean by that is, we've tried, myself for the last 5 years, the town supervisors before me, to bring something to that Letchworth property. We've talked to recreation people, we've talked to all segments of business, and nobody purchases. And that's the reason why I say the market don't lie.
Right.
We're not giving it away. It's very difficult to develop that piece of property.
Yeah, I hear you. And I remember when I was president of the North Rockland Chamber several years ago, I reached out to a couple of different entities. I think I worked with former Supervisor Jeff Finn. I contacted Great Wolf Lodge, Rocking Horse Ranch, a few different places, not for me to do anything personally, but at least to make the connection with the various towns to see if there was an interest. And time. And I think the big thing was the remediation. The remediation cost for the asbestos removal was, it was considerable. So that was certainly a barrier.
Yeah, the cost to remediate just drives up the price. Going back, former supervisors, they put up an RFP to develop the property. They did all kinds of surveys, and unfortunately, every year it goes nowhere. I'm hoping this goes through. I don't budget for it. Because I don't believe it till it happens.
We only have a few minutes left. We try to finish by 1:15. I was wondering if each of you could make a quick closing statement on a particular topic. And I got this in the background from several people on Facebook messaging, and I want to make sure that it's posed in a way that is, I'd like you to put some sort of a message of hope out. We all saw nationally what happened a week and a half ago. It was tragic. We certainly wouldn't want anything like that happening to any of our children, any of our family members, any of our friends. Is there anything that you could say, maybe 60 seconds apiece? And I'll start with Jim, and then I'll go to Howard. Any words of hope that you can provide to the community?
Yeah. Well, on the economy level, we know that we're coming back. The unemployment numbers are starting to drop right away. Businesses are starting to open. You see it now, more vehicles on the road. So I'm very optimistic. This is not a long term. The market is coming back. We're definitely going to do well through the economy. Where we see the unrest throughout the country, we all know the terrible death that took place. I think there should be an outcry. People should be out exercising their First Amendment right to peacefully protest. That is the important. Unfortunately, where we've seen certain segment who want to loot or cause damage, and all that does is hurt the communities, especially these communities who have struggled before and now in their own neighborhoods to destroy businesses. Does not solve any problem. There is never a reason for violence. There's an opportunity for peaceful to change. There should be change through proper training and dialogue, but never a reason for violence.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that.
And I just wanted to add, Tom, our country has seen turmoil, and we always come back, and we will be strong, and there will be changes. And I have confidence that as a community and as a nation, we will come back stronger and better.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Howard, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you for this, and thank you for the opportunity of being able to speak to a lot of our business and residents. First of all, I agree. That should have never have happened. That nefarious, evil act was disgusting. I think it disgusted everybody in America. And that's why the outrage, and that's why the protests. But we can never have rioting. Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, we stand on the shoulders of so many great individuals from our country's past. We have to look at the past to really go forward. We are the greatest country in the world. And it's because we've had leaders like Martin Luther King, because we had great presidents, because we've had men and women who were willing to sacrifice, give their lives for freedom and liberty. We're going to get through this. This will pass. But we have to come out stronger and better. And the only way we do that is by getting involved. And I would say to this young generation, get involved. Don't sit on the sidelines. Be part of something. Be part of something bigger than you. You know, they are always taught that you're important. You matter. Yes, you matter. You are important. But there are things even more important than ourselves. Freedom, liberty, the rights of the individual, the rights of be able to have free speech. This is what has been passed on to us by those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Let's look to the things that unite us. We've got to get back to our foundation, to the base, to the Bill of Rights, to the things that created this great nation. You know, there is no other country on earth that people will travel halfway around the world to get to. They will give up their life spending to come here to this country, to live in this country. We still are that beacon of light, that freedom, that symbol of liberty. We still are that. We just have to get together and build. And I can't stress that enough. If you want to make a difference in this world, get involved in any organization. We have so many great organizations out there. That's how you meet people. That's how you make a difference. And I also want to say to these people that are the ultra wealthy, the billionaires of this world that have succeeded and really have built their little fortunes or their tremendous fortunes because of the United States. Give back. Just don't give your money. You have such resources and abilities. Go to the inner cities. Go and help those people in the inner cities. Everybody wants the American dream. Everybody wants that. We all want the same thing. The only way you can achieve that is by everyone working together to help one another. You know, I love Bishop Barron. He always stresses, wish the good of the other. Wish for the other's good. Now, we've got to get back to that. We've got to get back to our roots and who we are and that Judeo-Christian beliefs that we all came from. Thank you again for this opportunity, and know we're here to help you.
Thank you, Howard. To both of you, I really appreciate your time and your efforts, not just to be on this Friday forum, but most importantly, to stay working in a very contentious time in our history and be able to stay the course and hold the line so that we can create a better society. We're going to close there. I don't want to add anything on top of that because what you said was perfect. So our next Friday forum will be on, let me just share my screen again. Next Friday forum is going to be on next Friday, June 12th at 12:30 p.m. We're working on additional guest speakers. We usually mention them on Tuesday or Wednesday of each week. Please follow the North Rockland Community Facebook page in order to be able to connect with it. And again, as I had mentioned, you can also find more information about all these individual Friday forums on the Workforce Development Board website located at rocklandworks.org. There's a small tab on the news section for Small Business Friday forums. And right from there, you can get replays of each and every one of the past Friday forums for the past 2 months. And we'll keep on doing these. We're also working on a little podcast, and we'll continue to connect with more and more individuals that can help bring back information for us. So that's all for now. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Have a great rest of the week, guys. God bless.
Thank you.